7th, 2026 City Council meeting. I hereby call the meeting to order. Members of the public may attend the City Council meeting in person or may watch or listen remotely by viewing the meeting on Channel 8 WCTV and at the city's website at wayzata.org/WCTV. Public comment during the public forum and or public hearing portions of the meeting may be provided in person at the meeting, in advance, or by logging into the Teams call and raising your hand during the hearing. When your name is called in the meeting, you will be seen and heard in our council chambers and the cable channel, and you'll be asked to unmute and you begin your comment. All public comments should include your first name and the group that you're representing or neighborhood. Next on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If I could ask everyone to stand if you're able. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on our agenda is roll call. Let the record reflect that all council members are present this evening. I will note that earlier this evening, the council, in the capacity of the Board of Appeals, had our local Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting earlier this evening. Next is the agenda. To approve the agenda, I would need a motion to approve the agenda as amended, or do we want to make any changes?
I'd move to approve the agenda as is.
Okay.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion passes 5-0. Next is our public forum. Just as a reminder for those in the public attendance tonight, if you're interested in speaking, when you approach the dais, please state your name and the group that you're representing or neighborhood and limit your comments to 3 minutes. If it's on the agenda, fill out a form at the table and hand it to staff. And for those on Teams, please send a note to staff via chat and let them know what agenda item you're interested in speaking about. And we also want to note that we require your camera to be turned on when you speak. So we have two public forum items before we get to on the agenda. I'd first invite Marilyn Richter to the dais. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. My name is Marilyn Richter. I live on Benton Avenue in Wayzata. And I'm here just to emphasize that the need for short-term rules and regulations still exists for Wayzata. I know you're having a meeting after this regarding that. Just want you to remember that a lack of these rules and regulations has been reflected in the issues caused on Benton Avenue for at least 2 years. All from the plethora of short-term rentals that we have there. So please don't let your interest in planning be dropped because of the lawsuit. This has to be a way. There has to be a way for regulation as it's been addressed throughout the country. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I would like to invite to the dais Mr. Henry Miles, please. Welcome.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, City Manager, staff, I know many of you, and thank you for your great service to this community. My name is Henry Miles. My wife Vicki and I reside at 746 Woodston Circle. In addition to paying our taxes, every year we donate funds to the city to recognize people or events, and to support special projects. In addition, for 8 or 9 years, together with city parks, forestry, and public works, I've helped improve and maintain the Little Woods, home now to a fox family with 6 newborn cubs. I'm not here to discuss any of that. I'm here this evening to voice our opinion about the TCF building at 200 Lake. Once a landmark of our village, to describe it now as an eyesore would be generous. It's become a slum building with slate shingles falling off the roof, mortar dropping from between the bricks, graffiti top to bottom, garage exposed, many windows and doors either boarded up or smashed, glass on the outside suggesting the building is visited or inhabited. One can only imagine the mold and vermin inside. This building would be a disgrace in any community, much less Wayzata. Vicki and I took our spring walk by TCF building 2 weeks ago. It's hard to imagine that it's even in worse condition than it was in 2025. Then again, on the Wayzata website, I'm seeing no substantive progress for a year. For anyone who hasn't done so, I suggest you do a slow walk around the front of that building and then circle in the back by the city parking lot and 6 Smith and look up, look down, and take in the mess. I'm aware that disputes between the building owner and the city have gotten us here. That no longer matters. The TCF building has become a lose-lose for the owner and for us. If we can't find a win-win solution, then I suggest a negotiation technique where the parties walk away equally unhappy. This starts with each party saying to themselves, we don't want to do X, but we will in order to move things forward. The time has come to remove this slum building from our presence. I ask that you submit my comments into the record and share them with the building owner. And again, I thank you for your service and for giving me a few minutes on the floor tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miles, and noted that we did get your remarks and they will be entered into the record, the written aspect of it. Okay, moving on to the items that were on our public forum. First, we're going to proclaim the month of May as Arbor Month, and then is there a resolution that is to be read?
Mr. Mayor, there's a proclamation to read in your script
Okay,
tonight.
so I didn't know if you wanted to, if there was some sort of presentation. So I will read the proclamation. So whereas the health of the people is tied to the health of their forests, and whereas the planting and maintaining trees mitigates the effects of climate change by absorbing carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and whereas trees and green spaces play a major role in improving mental and physical health, and whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas forests create high-quality drinking water by acting as a natural filter, and trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, whereas each year on the last Friday of April, Arbor Day, and throughout the month of May, Minnesotans pay special tribute to the rural and community trees and all the natural resources, and dedicate themselves to the continued vitality of our state's forests. Whereas on May 11th and 12th, 2026, the city of Wayzata will partner with Hennepin County Forestry to plant 500 ash tree replacements at the Beaver Dam Woods at 380 Broadway Avenue North. And whereas on May 22nd, 2026, the city of Wayzata will distribute potted hackberry trees to residents for planting on private property. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Wayzata City Council, on behalf of the citizens of Wayzata, proclaim May 2026 as Arbor Month in the city of Wayzata. Thank you. Next on our public forum is the introduction of our planning intern, Ms. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'd like to invite May Jagodzinski up to the podium. She's been serving as an intern, and I'll let the Community Development Director Sharp comment more, because since he works more directly with her, but I'd just like to say that she is such a positive, helpful person in the office, and we're really glad to have her. Director Sharp.
Thank you, Manager Yeager. You've taken kind of the intro from us. Yes, May has been a delight to work with. She started with the city around a month ago. She's been helping fill in for some of our gap in our busy spring time frame. So she's been doing everything from doing research projects to answering phones to answering general planning questions. May is obtaining her Master's of Urban and Regional Planning from the University of Minnesota. She graduated from UW-Madison with a background in public health and environmental studies. May also brings experience from other municipal government, namely Eau Claire, where she served as a associate analyst. And with that, I'd let May provide a little additional detail. Hopefully I didn't steal everything from her.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Like Alex said, my name is May, and I am a first-year grad student at the U. I worked in municipal government before as an analyst, so more of the data side, but never through the planning lens. So I've got to learn a lot the past few weeks, and so super grateful for kind of working with the planning team at Wayzata and learning a lot. So really excited to be here and continue to learn. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, welcome, even though you've started, but welcome. And are there any comments from council or questions for our intern?
I'd welcome I think this is a great idea, and I would love to explore other opportunities for future internship opportunities. I just think internship programs are a win-win, or have the possibility of being a win-win for the intern and the organization. And I think there's just a lot of benefits both ways. So I'm happy to see this internship take root and hope that it works well for you, May, and gives you what you need. And then also we look at other ways for the city to benefit from future internship programs, because I think it's a great experience.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Well, welcome again, and thank you for being here tonight. And you were very generous in your not nudging her along in any sort of stump the chump questions or anything. So welcome and thank you. Okay, do we have anyone on Teams for the public forum?
Not for the public forum.
Okay, so we'll move on to new agenda items. Does anyone have any new agenda items to discuss or bring up at a future meeting? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. So all the items in the consent agenda are inclusive of approval of the check register, approval of municipal licenses, adoption of resolution 19-2026 appointing Cameron Bentrott to the Energy and Environment Committee, adoption of resolution 18-2026 approving the draft deed grant application for 200 Lake Street East, approval of seasonal lease agreement with Bjorn Cycling, approval of the contract with the Minnesota Conservation Corps for a woodland restoration project at 998 Lake Street East, approval of the special event permit for 2026 Wayzata Art Experience event by the Wayzata West Metro Chamber of Commerce, approval of the special event permit for the 2026 James J. Hill Days event by the Wayzata West Metro Chamber of Commerce, approval of the special event permit for 2026 Boo Bash Dash event by the Wayzata West Metro Chamber, and adoption of resolution 17-2026 amending the 2026 liquor fund budget. So I would accept a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, or if any items need to be pulled for discussion.
Mayor, I'd love to just take a second to make a comment,
Sure.
but not necessarily polling anything, if that's okay.
Yes, thank you. Welcome to.
Appreciate it. So I just wanted to make a comment about the event permits from the Wayzata Chamber. I noticed that there are some really great strides taken, and just wanted to call that out to express some appreciation on behalf of, well, myself and dare I say this body, and but also regroup a bit just to recap some goals for next year, kind of on our end. There's some good work to be done on the chamber side for 27 events, but I think if we do our due diligence on a city side, we'll all be better for it and on the same page going into the next season. So I would just like to make a note to staff to kind of have a next workshop in addition to, or to, as a next step from our previous workshop where we talk about some of those parking mitigations. And I also wouldn't mind if staff gave us a little bit more information on the fees that have been waived every year in terms of why that is, what's a potential there, and just sort of the nuance of that item. So,
Yes, thank you for those comments. I mean, what I heard is that we would direct staff to perhaps pull together an earlier meeting, for 27, so that there's some lead time for both parties to get our arms around the issues that were not addressed in this cycle, and then we might have some new ones to bring up. But the intent is to be early and ahead of 27. So is that clear direction, Ms. City Manager?
Yes, Mayor and Council, thank you.
Okay, that's acceptable?
Yeah, I appreciate it, thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. So we still need to then approve the agenda, right? I mean, yeah, so I would accept a motion now to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That passes 5-0. Next is our public hearing. There's no items on the public hearing tonight. So we'll move on to new business. And first on our agenda is consider the need to have an emergency moratorium and first reading of ordinance 859, declaring a temporary moratorium on new short-term rentals. Doesn't impact existing short-term rentals.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to turn this over to Community Development Director Sharp to present.
Thank you, City Manager Yeager. As stated, this is a consideration of a short-term moratorium. So on the background of this, I want to start with some of the basis. Essentially, the city adopted on October 9th Ordinance 852, which prohibited short-term rentals via our rental licensing operations. As the council is aware and the public is generally aware, this was then challenged by short-term rental operators in a court action. On March 30th, 2026, the district court issued an order declaring that Ordinance 852 was a zoning regulation and therefore void. As we're proceeding forward with that, staff wanted to bring forward a potential for a moratorium to provide the council with specific tools because of the prohibition and the potential for additional users to come forward in the interim before a zoning ordinance could be created, which would regulate these uses. Specifically, we've had already one, potentially two new applicants that were not short-term rental operators in 2025 apply for short-term rental licenses in 2026. So there is some pressing, but it's obviously not a significant number at this time. However, the longer that a future regulation may take, the more likely that other applicants could come forward. Staff is not necessarily recommending that a moratorium be put in place, but is recommending that the council consider the moratorium as a tool if there is additional concern. To go through the draft moratorium provisions, it would not affect or restrict any existing licenses or those that were in place in 2025. The moratorium would restrict the issuance of new licenses to properties that were not previously licensed. And it would, if adopted as an emergency ordinance, which does require a 4/5 vote from City Council, these restrictions would begin immediately, not upon publication as they would with other ordinances where we have to do a first reading, second reading, and then publication, which would likely place that ordinance sometime in May. And that is essentially what the moratorium is put in place to do. If the council sought to do that longer term stretch, we would bring forward a amended ordinance with that, with those provisions to that effect. With that, I stand for any questions.
Questions of staff?
I've got one here. If we were to not approve the moratorium today, and somebody did come forward, a new person to apply for a short-term rental, would we be obligated to grant that application, or could we still turn it down?
I will attempt to answer the, Mayor, Council Member, I will attempt to answer the question, but I would invite on the legal basis the city attorney to step in at any time. My general response be, as long as they are meeting the provisions, they pass our inspections, and they have paid their fees, we would be moving them along as any other application would be received and on a timeline in which we would be able to review those. So if they were to come forward before a draft ordinance were to be fully approved and then published, we could have to issue those licenses because that would be consistent with other rental license procedures.
Did you want to weigh in? I got a follow-up question, though.
Mayor and council, yeah, I think maybe I just reiterate and underscore some of what Director Sharp said. If this moratorium wasn't adopted, we essentially go back to where we were prior to the short-term rental ordinance that prohibited short-term rentals. And someone could put in an application. That application would be reviewed. If they met all the criteria for issuing a license, it would be issued. But if they didn't, then that license would not be issued.
And if that were to be the case, how long would that agreement be in place? Is it a one-year term?
That is correct. It would go through May 31st of 2027.
So the worst-case scenario, if you want to take that side, is we don't pass a moratorium, somebody comes in, applies, meets all the criteria, gets approved, and they can be doing this for the next year. And that's the worst-case scenario before we come back with a zoning ordinance.
If I may, one correction to that. With a zoning ordinance, once you've began a use, you can, if a zoning ordinance is passed after you've been a permitted use, it becomes a legal non-conforming use and would be able to continue in perpetuity so long as they meet certain provisions and don't have a year of lapse. So any of those that applied in that time frame and were issued would continue as a legal non-conforming use.
And are you aware of anybody queued up to do this?
There are 2 that have been submitted, 1 for sure, potentially 2 that have been submitted since the court case on the 30th notification.
2 new ones that were
2
not
new,
operating.
that were not operators of last year.
And they're fully complete applications or just inquiries?
They're complete applications with fees paid and rental inspection has not occurred.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions of staff?
So to follow up on that, does that mean that any short-term rental that is in place right now, if we change the ordinance, they are allowed to be short-term rentals in perpetuity?
Under a zoning ordinance, Mayor, Councilmember, under a zoning ordinance, that would be correct. Seeing as the city attorney is wanting to lean forward and provide comment, I want to make sure that I allow him that time.
Thank you, Director Sharp. It's always the lean that gives me that chance.
Pretty telling.
Yeah, I think it's worth really understanding that all rental dwellings need a license in Wayzata, and that you have to apply for that, and you have to meet certain standards like the Property Maintenance Code and crime-free, drug-free training, that sort of thing. So all rentals in Wayzata, whether they're short or long-term, those regulations would apply, and they need to get a license. What would change if the zoning ordinance were updated to essentially not make short-term rentals a permitted use in certain zoning districts, those uses could only continue if they predated that change. That's the legal non-conforming use. And then it would need to continue. So if for some reason someone sold a property and it was no longer rented out, they'd lose that right over time. So the non-conforming use has to continue. And you still have to apply for and get a license. So if someone doesn't qualify for a license because the property is not maintained or there's all sorts of police incidents going on, the city could deny the license and it wouldn't be permitted to operate that way. So there's really 2 layers of regulation that we need to think about when we look at those questions.
Addressed? Yeah. Okay. Other questions of staff? I guess I'll bring it back to the council for discussion then. Who'd like to weigh in first?
Well, I'll kick it off.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald.
Appreciate that. I am in favor of this moratorium. I think it's prudent since we had really studied this, engaged the community, and I think really came to the right conclusion. While there may be some debate about how we got there, I think where we got was the right place. So I am in favor of this moratorium, and I am in favor of the emergency moratorium as well.
Thank you for that. Go ahead, Mr. Sorensen.
Yeah, I think, it's important to, as we think about this, there's a lot of discussion yet to be had on this topic. We're going to get the chance to learn more about where we are with, as a city after this meeting and as time moves on. So there may be some opinions still floating around about what we did. We'll have a chance to talk about all that, but tonight is really about the moratorium. And I think I'm in favor of this moratorium. I think we should enact it as soon as possible. And I say that because I think the intent of this, and the reason it's kind of put in here as agenda item so quickly, is it's very consistent with where we ended up with the ordinance we passed last year. And like Councilman McDonald mentioned, that was a multi-month process. So we already have 2 applications. I think we could expect more if we don't enact a moratorium. And we'll have plenty of time to even discuss the moratorium if we do pass one later, and even adjust it if we decide to. But all in all, I think I was glad to see that this was in the agenda, and it gives us the time we need to really think this through, knowing that we pass a moratorium and we have time to really digest that. And if we make any changes, we can do it at a later time. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Thank you for those comments. Before we go any further, I just wanted to ask a clarifying question that popped up in my head based on your comments. Is 1 year the only term? Is that guided by statute, or how is that determined, and why is it 1 year, or could it be different?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So under the state statute that authorizes cities to adopt this interim ordinance for the moratorium, it can be up to 1 year initially. So staff felt we would offer you the tool that would give you the most time. If zoning ordinance changes are adopted within 6 months, the moratorium can go away sooner. But it again just takes pressure off the planning process. We've adopted as a city 6-month moratoriums before, and even 3 months, I think. But my general view as city attorney is that you might as well take as much, take the maximum amount of time you're permitted to take. You can always end it, with another action whenever you want.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Who would like to weigh in next?
I'll weigh in here. We talked about this obviously quite at length before, and we had a situation where, because some of the people involved we knew from long-term being residents here, and they were human situations that warranted kind of a sensitivity. I would love to have seen a nuanced answer to this, but because you can't really nuance this thing too well, it's going to be what it is, and it's going to be applied in one situation, maybe not the other. So the council came down on, this is just not something we want to have in the city. I was hoping for a nuanced situation, but we couldn't come to one. So I do support what the council did at that time, because we couldn't come up with it, and because that is the council's intent, to not have short-term rentals in our city, regardless of the human situations. Then I would support this immediate moratorium so we don't have anything else come in.
Thank you, Mr. Plekish.
Yeah, I was not on the council when this was decided, but I do appreciate and respect the decisions that were made, whether I agree or not. And so I do support this moratorium. Not being on the council, I did not benefit from getting a lot of the public feedback that you all got when you made that decision. So comments like Mrs. Richter's tonight, they're important for me to hear. And I've heard comments from public on the contrary. So I do, like I said, I support this moratorium right now. I guess I would ask that as a follow-up to what Councilmember Plekish just said, if there are nuances that we can consider and kind of get this right, then I see this as, maybe this is this is in some ways a blessing of the opportunity to maybe get it right and fine tune this in a way that kind of makes as many people happy as possible. So I'm in support of this tonight, though.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just point out that part of this ordinance does direct staff to engage in a study to address short-term rentals. So that is built into this ordinance. It's part of what your charge to us will be if you adopt the ordinance.
Okay. So my position on this hasn't changed. I would have, like Alex, been able to find a path for responsible regulation to allow them in some form versus an absolute ban. And so, second, I have paused that we don't have a full legal briefing on the status of our existing case, which we lost. And so the message I would want to send to the community is that we're looking at all options and going to take the path that makes the most sense. And this feels out of order to me. I would have liked to see the briefing on the case before we impose a moratorium to understand all the implications or the path forward, whether it be an appeal, whether it be moving to zoning as a remedy to address this, or maybe going back to responsible regulation. So I think it's premature. I would have preferred to see this tabled tonight until we got that briefing and then bring it back a week from now. So I am going to not support it tonight. It looks like I'll be the lone dissenting voice. It doesn't mean that I'm not in support of where the council landed. My issue is how the information's coming to us and not having a full understanding of the implication of the court ruling. And so that's why I feel we're out of order in pushing the moratorium now. I'd like to see it after we've gotten the full legal briefing as to what our path forward is. And we don't even know what that is yet, right? We don't know if we're gonna appeal. We don't know if we're gonna pursue zoning. And I get that this allows us to study it, but I think it's out of order. So with that, I guess I would accept a motion to approve it, but it has to come in two parts. And I'm going to ask David to explain this because there's a nuance to how we express a motion to approval, because it has to have two parts to either make it immediate or to require a second reading. So if you could just explain that to the council so that we have a full understanding of procedurally what we have to do.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So because this is an emergency ordinance, it will have immediate effect. And under our charter, when we adopt, or when the city adopts an emergency ordinance, there needs to be two votes on the ordinance. The first is declaring the emergency that's articulated in the ordinance, and that has to be by 4/5 of council. That will allow the ordinance to take effect immediately. And then you follow up with just a normal vote on approving the ordinance. I know that seems a little redundant, but that's the way the charter works.
Okay. Thank you for that. I just want to read into the record one comment that I got from an existing licensee holder who wasn't able to be here tonight. This is from Teresa and Bob Fisher. We sincerely want our voice to be heard. We would welcome an opportunity to work with a task force or related group to come up with ideas and an action plan to identify and address the issues of short-term rentals. We local owners believe we want to have a positive relationship with our fellow community members. We are responsible residents and want to be treated as part of the community. So I just wanted to read that into the record because it was expressed, and so I wanted their voice to be heard, so I've done that. Now, I guess I'd approve a motion in two parts, right? So we'd first try for a motion to approve the preamble of Ordinance 859. Do I need to restate it for any further clarity?
No, Mr. Mayor, I just amend what you just said with declaring that there is an emergency need for the ordinance.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the preamble of Ordinance 859, acknowledging an emergency situation for the ordinance? Who would like to make that motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? I'm going to vote no, but it's not because I don't support where the council landed. It's because I don't follow the logic of making this decision without a full briefing and understanding of the implications of the court ruling.
Mr. Mayor, I'd ask you to do a roll call vote since we know we need four. Yeah.
No problem. I'll ask the city manager to call a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Sorensen?
Aye.
Councilmember Plekish?
Aye.
Councilmember McDonald?
Aye.
Councilmember Cook?
Aye.
And Mayor Mullen?
No. So that passes 4-1, and then we need to have a second motion to adopt the ordinance 859 declaring a temporary moratorium on short-term rentals. Correct, Mr. City Attorney?
Yes.
Do we need any further clarification to just adopt ordinance 859 and declaring a temporary moratorium? Is there any further commentary? Okay, so I would accept a motion to adopt ordinance number 859 declaring a temporary moratorium on short-term rentals.
Make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. That passes 4-1. So now that has been adopted immediately, right? So that goes in effect as of this moment, correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this has immediate effect. It's technically not the first reading, it's the only reading of the ordinance 859, and it has immediate effect.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Go ahead, Mr. Sorensen.
Yeah, if I could just make.
Please.
Just one clear. Well, so we have two people that have applied for short-term rentals. How does this moratorium affect those two applications?
I would defer to City Attorney Schelzel, but my guess would be since they've already paid and put in their application and are just waiting approval that they're, I don't know. What do you think, City Attorney Schelzel?
Yeah, Councilmember Sorensen and Manager Yeager, I think we should probably discuss that as staff. My initial thought is, in general, we apply the law that's in effect at the time the city takes action. If those licenses have not issued, I would say they won't. But we can talk further about that.
Okay. Answered?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So we will have a closed meeting session after this to discuss the implication of the court ruling. And then when will we bring forward commentary in the public as to our course of action? Is it after a period of time for staff to study this and offer a path forward, or what? I'm just trying to understand the next steps for those that are tuning in, that on all sides of this understanding, okay, what does this all mean? The moratorium's in place, and then what period of time should we expect more information to come forward on our path?
Mr. Mayor, I'll just take a first stab at that in responding, but I'd invite Director Sharp and City Manager Yeager to follow up. I just wanted to say that this gives the city up to a year to adopt potentially new zoning ordinance regulations. And it also directs staff to, like I said earlier, to engage in study. I think this is related to litigation strategy, which City Council will be discussing with Council later on tonight. And I think that will drive the timing of any potential new regulations that staff would bring forward. But Council could say, hey, we'd like to hear within 6 months.
Yeah, Mayor.
Just up to, and then we'll work through it with you as when you're ready.
Correct. So that's what I was going to say. Depending on where the council decides in our closed session on what kind of next steps you might want to see, that could trigger additional workshops on this and whatnot. So I won't really know exactly what timeline looks like to communicate until we know what we want to do.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. And that's what I just wanted to clarify, because if you're tuning into this, this is sort of a abstract concept, and people are going to want to understand, like, what are the next steps that we're going to take action on. So thank you for that. Okay, so we're closing that agenda item out, and now we're moving on to item B, which is consider approval of the special event permit for 2026 concert by RBA. Is there a staff presentation on this, or?
I've just got the agenda packet. That's all I've got. So thank you, Mayor and Council. So as was placed in your agenda packet, Rick Bjorn, under RBA, has submitted a special event permit to hold 2 concerts during the weekend of James J. Hill Days, which this year would be September 11th and 12th. So as part of that, they're anticipating that it's about 2,500 people who would be there each day. The applicant is requesting that the concert go from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. on both nights. Their application does not specify what type of music would be performed. They do propose, similar to when other concerts have been held down in this area, to close the beach and marina and Boatworks parking lot starting on that Wednesday to begin setting up for the event. You'll see in your packet that there were many conditions listed on the permit application related to minimizing impacts on the use of the marina, parking lots, surrounding community. So there's things about noise mitigation, security personnel on site, things like that. The one piece of this application that warrants more council discussion is around the end time for music. So as I mentioned, the applicant is requesting an end time of 11 p.m. Historically, when we had the Beach Bash concerts, those were permitted until 11 p.m. with the understanding that music would end around 10:30, but kind of flexible. But the permitted end time was 11 p.m. That was true with the 2024 Wham Fest. It was permitted until 11 p.m. The 2025 Hi-Fi on the Lake concert that was held by Maconda required music to end at 10:30. And so based on complaints that staff and I believe even members of the council have received about noise levels, particularly from concerts in 2023 and 2024, staff's recommending to place a condition of approval of ending the time at 10:30. The applicant did include a letter and is also here tonight as well and can also address the council and answer any questions you may have, that the 10:30 end time does not work for them. That's where council discussion is needed on what end time is appropriate for the community and when you want to have a firm end time for music. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and like I mentioned, the applicant, Rick Bjorn, is also here to answer any questions of the council as well.
Questions of staff, and then we'll certainly give the applicant a chance to come to the dais as well so that we can get questions answered. Any questions of staff?
Just a clarification. So this action is whether or not to approve the permit at all in general, and then whether or not to adjust for more time at the end of the night.
Yeah, great question. Councilmember McDonald, I should have been more clear. Yes, the action tonight is to consider approval of their permit and then address a specific condition of what time music has to end by.
Got it. Okay, appreciate it.
I just have one question. I heard your words, but the memo is not as clear. So it says, with the understanding music would end at 10:30, similar to this year's request, but this year's request is to end at 11, right?
Correct. But in the applicant's letter, they state that their goal is still to try to end at 10:30. But if there are weather impacts or other delays that their permitted end time would be 11.
Got it. So it's about the flexibility probably of contracting the artist would be my hypothesis. We'll find out from the applicant, but it's probably to have that in there for flexibility for delays, I guess is what I would characterize it. Is that a fair?
Yeah, that's how the applicant represents it in their letter. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Other questions of staff? I would invite the applicant to come and maybe elaborate on the intent of this and brief us so that we can make an informed decision.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and council staff. Thanks for inviting me up. My name is Rick Bjorn, and I am the applicant for the Wham Bash, as we're kind of referring to it. So happy to answer any questions. If I could just comment on a couple of the comments you guys made. We've had 21 of these events that I've been a part of out here. They've all been permitted till 11 o'clock. Of those 21, there's only one that went to 11 o'clock, and that was Toby Keith. All the rest of them ended somewhere between 10:22, which is when we had the lightning storm and everything else, and we had to evacuate, and it all worked out pretty well. But generally, they've all ended at 10:30, 10:35, whatever. I will say this, unless there's weather or technical difficulties, which we've never had, but we have had weather, it's easier with an EDM type artist to end it. When you have 15 musicians out, and it takes on a whole life of its own, and sometimes they just go longer, and you're kind of trying to tell them. But we've never had a problem with it going past 11, and quite honestly, it's usually like 10:35 is probably the average, and that is the intent. We would give instruction to whatever artists we have. 10:30 is the targeted end time, unless for some reason they can't start, because of weather or something else at the proposed start time.
Okay. Any other comments that you'd like to make or questions maybe for the applicant from council?
Probably a few.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Flickish.
Good to see you. It's been quite a while since you've been here, so welcome. the music hasn't been determined yet. Are you considering EDM? Because that was always like the big bone of contention.
Yeah.
The 2 times you had it.
We are. Right now, we're getting late in the process. I was, after getting the no vote last time, I wasn't sure if we were going to try to come back and do this again. We've had a tremendous amount of interest in reviving, especially on the James J. Hill weekend, because it just has been a kind of a long-standing thing. What I've looked at, I don't have the offers out yet. I wanted to wait until after we got approval because I kind of got burned last year on it, my own fault. So we'll see. It might, I've kind of jokingly put it down as wham bash because I'm not sure. But one of the thoughts is maybe doing one night of EDM and one night of country or something like that. But it'll ultimately come down to whatever talent we can get at this point that's available. So I would ask the council to consider either one of the genres as long as it ends by 10:30, 10:45. And we'll certainly, as we've worked with the city and staff and everything in the past, after the first Wham Fest we did, which was the first night of the Wham Fest was quite loud, and that was when the complaints came. I believe we mitigated a lot of that on the second night, and we had none or very little complaint, nothing out of the ordinary the second night. And then the second year we came back and we did baffling under the stage, and so it was really to try to protect the houses behind us and everything else. And so we'll continue to do all those things, whether it's country or rock or EDM. So that's one thing. One of the other things too that I think as Councilmember McDonald brought it up in one of the other application rounds was the length of time, that it went on, and that's, maybe as important is how, whether it's 10:30 or 10:45, it's just the length and the duration of because it's loud, it's an outdoor concert. One of the things we would, and I think it's in the application, but I want to highlight it, and if it's not, we'll make sure that it's there, is that we will start the music later. So we'll start it at 7 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock like we have in the past, or probably even 7:15 is when we'll start it. We got to time it around. I don't know if the city's still planning to do the fireworks or not. We've always had to kind of time it and space it for that as well. Leave an opening there for the city to do the fireworks that's out in the bay, and I don't know if that's happening or not. But so that was also part of it. So we'll start it later. The actual time will be shorter than it has at its peak, I guess. With the goal of ending everything by 10:30, so that's the plan.
So I did notice that you put in your letter that you were willing to extend the start time to 7, which shortens the concert. So help me understand why a 6 o'clock start doesn't work and just ending it shorter.
Yeah, there's a few reasons. One is the light show. You talked about Maconda and what they had done with the Wi-Fi or hi-fi on the lake or whatever it was. That the level of entertainers we're bringing in. These are historically they've been touring acts that do arenas and big stadiums, Toby Keith's instance, or Dierks Bentley or the Goo Goo Dolls. They don't much like to play in the daylight. They want the light show and everything else, and that's kind of driven a lot towards that. So that's really the biggest reason why. And quite honestly, people don't get there, that early. We learned that from a lot of them. We had instances where the doors opened and the music started, and there was nobody there to watch it because people just don't want to go to a concert at 5 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of
So lots of lessons learned, and that's just one of them, yeah.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
And I'm hearing that light show is part of the spectacle, and that looks better at night.
Yeah, it's part of, and that goes whether it's country, rock, or whatever, So
It's a big part of EDM, though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. It's a bigger part of it because it's just usually a person or two on the stage pushing buttons,
Yeah.
But even for the, we've had to tone down some of the other stuff. In the Sammy Hagar year, we had to tell them no cannons, that they wanted to shoot off confetti, and we said no, we were not doing that because we'd be picking up confetti for a month. So
I'm glad to know you shut down cannons in Wayzata. So
yeah, I didn't want to push the limit here, you know.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with extending myself. I'm just curious about some of the details. You did say in here that if we didn't approve a 10:30 or 11, that it's a dead deal. What is the real reason behind that? Is it because people don't want to start, or they're coming in late, or what
Good
determines that?
question. There's two parts to it. One is what I talked about, you know, that the artists, and they're artists, the writers are extensive in what they will and won't want to do, and it's just hard. But the biggest reason is really, it's from 10 is too early. 10:30 is, you know, I think more normal. That's when a concert at Target Center will end, or, you know, generally speaking. You know, and really what it's do is protect. If a headliner artist, and that's who we pay all the money to, and it can be $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. If they don't go on, we technically have to refund all the money. We've got all the expense in the show. The artist still gets paid, and we have to refund everybody's ticket. So it creates a liability that's just kind of, you know, if it's an indoor show, it'd be a different thing. But it's an outdoor show, and these are risks promoters always have to face, but you try to mitigate that with, okay, if we have a downpour and lightning at 9 o'clock at night and they can't get on until 10, at least they can get an hour in at that point. And then we still have to pay them. We don't have to give refunds to all of the people. So that's really what it's all about.
Good, and that's kind of what I wanted to hear, so thank you for that.
Yep, okay.
Other questions? I just have one. Mr. Bjorn, would you be open to like limiting to one night of EDM so that we can put at least a guardrail on that versus two? Because first of all, I like Alex, and I don't have a problem with extending the hours based on the rationale that you just argued about the why behind it, right? And also 20-some years of history here. I think it's become somewhat of a tradition in the community, and I'd hate to see it, you know, that chapter be permanently closed. And I respect and understand when you're fronting that kind of money, you need some certainty to be able to contract in a way that is an appropriate risk-reward scenario for you and your partners to put on the show for the community. So would you be open to that at all, or?
The best way for me to answer it is I'll start with what my preference would be. My preference would be to do one night of each.
Okay.
You know, that'd be my preference, because that kind of, especially, you know, there were some years where we were doing one in June and one in September. And I think it worked as two different genres of music, attracts different people, it appeals to different people in the community, you know. But with this late in the game, it might be hard, you know, so I'd like not to box myself in on that. If all we can get is, it might be 2 nights of country. I mean, I don't know exactly what we're going to get at this point. I'd like to have the flexibility, but I can go on the record stating I'd like to have it be one of each if I could have my preference, and I can know better going forward, you know, on that. But so I hear it, and I'd like not just to be confined to it if all we have is EDM. So I think with the real issues, I don't think anybody cares if it's 2 nights of country, I'm going to guess, or a night of country, or 2 nights of rock. I think it really comes down to this council would probably prefer to have not 2 nights of EDM. And, you know, like I said, I would like to see the genres split too. So, but I can't guarantee it. So I'd like not to be confined to that if possible.
Well, and my sense of the fatigue in the community is not about one weekend. It's about multiple weekends that tips it, you know, for people's tolerance level. So I just wanted to offer that as well. It's not just one weekend, but multiple weekends. I think people are maybe less inclined to support in the community.
Yeah, I agree, but I also do think 2 nights in a row, I mean, the amount of feedback, we'll call it, was immense. And so 2 nights in a row, I think would, I think they'd blow a gasket again.
Just so I'm clear, 2 nights was immense. I think you're referring to the Maconda thing, though, not the Wham Fest, right?
No, I'm referring to Wham Fest.
Okay.
I mean, all of them. It's been 3 EDM shows in a few years, and they all brought immense feedback, negative feedback, unfortunately. I do remember the second night of the original first one being much better.
Yeah.
But I don't think the public really knows which promoter is louder. They just,
Right.
you know, because the hi-fi one, I don't think worked out well either. So respectfully to the mayor, but I think it's actually the two back-to-back of something people
Like two
don't
nights in a
like.
row.
Yeah, versus two
Weekends,
weekends.
Yeah. Do you feel the same way about 2 nights of country?
It doesn't matter what I think.
Well, I mean, I guess, do you think the concern is just 2 nights of any kind of music back to back?
No, I think it's 2 nights. I think it's EDM specifically.
Okay.
Of all those years, now I haven't been a council member for 20 years, but for 6, I only ever got that feedback with EDM, which, you know, I really enjoyed myself at Steve Aoki. So, again, it's not how I feel. It's about what the public doesn't like and what they do want. So I'm hesitant. I'm fine with the 11 p.m. That seems perfectly reasonable. But the risk of hearing more of that 2 nights in a row feedback is a little nerve-wracking for me. That's kind of where I'm at on this one.
Is there any such thing as a mime concert? Could weave that in.
Could try. I mean, I don't know. Interesting.
Artistic expression, right? Okay, so are there any other questions of the applicant? We'll bring it back to the council for discussion. Any other questions of the applicant?
I guess this is probably, I'm just gonna ask the question. If you got the 2-night approval, but only found one, you couldn't find an artist outside the genre for night 1 or night 2 as the other option, could the event just be a one-night thing?
Good question. Anything can happen. You know, you can make anything happen. Is the very first year we did this was 2013. It was the Beach Bash, and there was a bunch of concern about this. I mean, there was, rightfully so. It was a kind of a new big thing with, 5,000 person capacity, and there was concern. And we did it one night, and it was Big and Rich did it, and it was. We only had like 3,500 people come, but it was good, and it turned out to be a success. Except for the promoter lost a ridiculous amount of money, and because it was one night. And you have all the infrastructure, all of the porta potties, all of the fencing, all of the security, the stage, sound, lights, all that stuff. It's like, and you only get one night of it. It's economically really hard to do it that way. So, I mean, could it be done? Sure. It's just a lot harder to do because there's at least the way we do it, the stage, sound, and lights alone is a huge number. So that's what makes it a challenge.
I understand that, thanks.
That's why I didn't ask for 3 nights, because I knew that would really push it over the limit, I think, so.
All right, any other questions of the applicant, or we'll bring it back to council for discussion? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Bjorn, and thank you for the years that you've been doing this as well.
Yeah, and I did notice the later start time, so I appreciate that.
That was actually meant for you.
Okay, so we'll bring it back to council for discussion. So I think what we're being asked to do is extend the time, and it's permitting for 2 nights, is what I'm hearing. So who would like to weigh in first?
I'd weigh in first.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cook.
I'm in support of the later start time, and I'm also in support of, I don't want to limit the genre to, say, I put a lot of faith in Mr. Bjorn in doing the right thing. I think he's proven that he will do the right thing. I mean, he just talked about, we learned about, it was too loud, so we put baffling under the stage, and we tried to mitigate as much as possible. I think I'm going to trust that he heard some of the comments here, and he's going to do, I totally believe and have faith in him that he wants 2 genres, and if he can do it, he's going to pull it off, and it's a great community event, and want to see it move forward and continue on for many years to come.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
I'll go next.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Cook's really summed it up well, too. I want to see this move forward as well, and I will put some faith, the faith in you, Mr. Bjorn, for making this happen. And I do think part of a miss was the hi-fi, the stage faced the wrong direction. So it just was this like trigger moment, I think, for the community with the EDM flying up the hill. So I'm game to give it a go again. Let's do it.
Thank you. Who would like to go next?
Yeah, just go down the line.
Sure.
Yeah, I really have no problem with this. This has been an event now that is being affiliated with Wayzata. We're kind of getting known for this. It's become a bit of a tradition, and there have been lessons learned along the way, both from council and from the promoter and all that. Those lessons have been learned. They've been put into place, and there may be mistakes down the road as well, but we're always handling them, it seems, pretty well. And I have no reason to go against this. I guess I welcome it.
Thank you, Mr. Plekish. Mr. Sorensen?
Not much to add. I'm in support of this. I think it's generally in compliance with the ordinance. It's good for our community. I like the fact that it's on J.J. Hill weekend because there's already a lot happening in our community and in the downtown area. But I hope you keep in mind some of the comments about the EDM. I mean, I think, and we're all hesitant to say, no, you just could do one night EDM, but you know how we feel about it. So keep that in mind for the future.
Thank you. I don't have much to add. I mean, I trust that Mr. Bjorn hears our concerns. He's got major financial risk on the table as well. He wants to do this for the community and his partners. I would sure hate to close the door on it. And I think you've heard our concerns, and I have every ounce of faith that you'll honor our concerns to the best of your ability and put on another world-class safe event. So I too would support moving this forward. So with that, any other comments before we move to a motion?
And Mr. Mayor and Council, if I could just request that when you make the motion, confirm that the end time, I believe, based on the discussion, you're comfortable with 11 p.m.
Okay.
Just confirm that. Thanks.
All right, no problem. So I would accept a motion to approve the special event permit for 2026 Wham Fest by RBA with the clarification that we're also acknowledging the flexibility of the later time to give him the flexibility of the start and stop time, within that window, but the flexibility needs to make it work.
I'll make that motion for you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. That passes 5-0. Good luck, Mr. Bjorn, and we know you'll honor our comments tonight, so thank you. Next is city manager's report and discussion items.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll be brief tonight. As we proclaimed Arbor Month, I wanted to highlight that Arbor Day, we will be giving a free tree giveaway, and you can sign up for that now to get a free potted hackberry tree. I believe we gave all trees away before the sign-up deadline last year, so we do run out of these. So you can go to wayzata.org/free tree giveaway to claim one. The final deadline is May 4th, but like I said, sign up early if you're interested. And the last thing I would note is that the spring book sale will be April 11th and 12th. So this Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, the hours are 9 to 4, Sunday from noon to 3, and they will be in this room in City Hall. So if you want to pick up a few books and support the local library, you can do that this weekend. That's all I've got.
Okay. Any other discussion items that any council member would like to bring up? Mr. Sorensen? No? Okay. So do we have anyone on Teams for the public forum, Ms. City Manager?
Mr. Mayor, we do not.
Okay. So I would accept a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we are adjourned.
So Rick, you don't like